Hello. If you are unacquainted with me, I'm Dex Gelfand, spiritual session giver, healer, counselor, and teacher, and learner. And if you are familiar with me or have seen my videos before, I'm still Dex Gelfand. That being said, the subject at hand for this video, or the title, if you will, our existence as spirits navigating through the physical dimension and the ways of being we take on in the process. This is how I see things, what I've learned, my perspective as it is now. And it is this. I've been very successful at helping hundreds of people resolve all the things that disturb them, all the things that handicap you, all the ways of being that are getting in your way, all the feelings of unworthiness, unacceptance, and feelings of shock and anxiety and fear. And it's a very spiritual context. And through this work and being passionate about this and inclined to engage in life this way, there are certain observations, certain awarenesses that I make, that I notice, intuitions, feelings, and so forth. And a very, very encompassing perspective, which is always becoming deeper through the work I do in engaging with you. Overall, I think the essential existence, situation we are all in as spiritual beings is there's the pure spiritual existence, which is love, which is togetherness, which is usness, is the most natural thing there is. Spiritually, without the imposition or the investing in or engaging in a physical projection, a physical dimension, all is here, all is now. There's no separation. There's this beautiful togetherness. There is no unacceptance, no anxiety, no fear, because we are all us together. And you could say it's sort of a illusion in the life as we know it in the physical dimension, that we are separate or unconnected, not knowing or feeling each other. And these things come about as attempted solutions to the shock that is the moment of transition from this wonderful, wonderful, beautiful, happy, loving togetherness to experiencing the physical dimension, the prime characteristic of physical existence, of the physical world, of the physical universe, of the physical dimension, is distance. It's the idea that there's a here and a there. If I have my clients do at certain points of a session, close your eyes and feel awe. You can feel awe, and truthfully, feeling is everything. The human five senses are a superficial approximation of feeling, of the full sense of feeling. Telepathy is feeling. Empathy is feeling. It is beyond the physical. But the physical dimension imposes separation and distance, geographic location, things being out of range, out of sight, out of hearing range, out of connection. And this is a tremendous, tremendous shock of all of a sudden feeling separate and alone. It's a feeling of being rejected and unaccepted, and it's something we spend our entire life, our entire physical existence struggling with. That's the truth. And all the feelings that we have that are undesirable relate to this. Basically, are tributaries of this feeling of shock, of perceived separation. It creates a desperation in you to seek to restore all that usness, all the feelings of acceptance, an absolute connection, togetherness of presence, usness and love. And we take on ways of being to try to protect ourselves from feeling that shock, that terror, and that anxiety of, does nobody want to be with us? Does nobody accept us? We take on what I call the various iterations of essentially what is the prime, what I call resolutely held protective attitude. These are our defenses, what I call resolutely held protective attitudes. It's what psychology is talking about with the term defense mechanisms. But the essential defense mechanism, the essential resolutely held protective attitude, that's the basic pull from which all the others draw, is something like this. It's like, to protect myself from feeling rejection and being unaccepted, I'm not going to give others the opportunity to become intimate enough with me that they could hurt me and withdraw and make me feel unaccepted and all that hurt of rejection and unacceptance and not being loved. And as is true for all resolutely held protective, and you could put quotation marks around the words protective, because in truth it's anything but protective. In truth, such an attitude, a resolutely held protective attitude, accomplishes exactly what it's intended to prevent. And it prevents exactly what it's intended to accomplish, because when you take on any variation of, I'm not letting anybody connect with me intimately so they can't hurt me and reject me and separate from me, by not allowing people to be co-present and have togetherness with you, that's exactly what you fear happening. And you more or less sign your own death warrant, so to speak. With every one of these ways of being, every of the hundreds of resolutely held protective attitudes you develop to try and hold your head above water, to try to stave off feelings of other people not accepting you, of life not accepting you. Our instinct is to push back at what we don't want to feel, because we don't know what to do with it. And as I said earlier, the ultimate sensation of what we do not want to feel is that shock, that feeling of shock, which, the basic experience of that is that moment of transition from the purely spiritual to all the perceived separation, the separateness of the physical dimension. You perceive through the eyes of your body, and so everything appears to be outside of you and external. And that is why I have clients during certain points in the session close your eyes and feel the wholeness of all existence. And when you close your eyes, that's when you can start to access that. With your eyes open, there's that perceived distance and separation of the physical. So because we have this tendency to push back on feelings of anxiety and shock and fear, we develop ways of being and attitudes to take on, to try to push back at it. But anything you resist, anything you push back at, you basically hold close to you. You cause it to continue by maintaining the struggle, which led to the development of a technique I present and use, which I call spiritual digestion, which is simply allowing all the feeling and sensation of whatever terror or fear or shock is making itself available to you through what I call your spiritual compass, which is simply your natural instinct to draw to your awareness that which you need to address, because it is in this moment what is most getting in the way of you becoming more whole, more recognizing that you are all is you, and existence is in fact, truly speaking, in the true spiritual context, existence is love and togetherness. So in order to regain that consciousness, that feeling, and that access to that love and togetherness, you need to digest these feelings of terror and fear and shock, rather than maintaining them by struggling with them and trying to push back at them. Spiritual digestion is an extremely simple process. First or second time someone does it with me in a session, it might seem tricky because they're trying to understand or figure out what to do. And there's no doing at all. It's the opposite of doing. It's actually allowing, noticing, and accepting the feelings and energies that are right now present within you, instead of trying to solve them with solutions of resistance, trying to look at them a different way, categorize them, or endless resolutely held protective attitudes of basically saying, I just won't engage with this. I won't engage with this. I don't want to feel this, so I won't engage with this, which again is resistance, holds things in place. When you allow yourself to simply experience, to have the full taste and flavor of whatever feelings are present, completely effortlessly, without exerting any effort of any kind. It's very surprising how these things are resolved by allowing what is within you to be within you, allowing it to express, sort of taking back all that energy you've been exerting to resist. It's a very peaceful, quiet feeling, and a feeling of wholeness and connection. And the number one thing that gets in the way of this is the effort and energy we put into resisting through thoughts, ideas, and attitudes which are resolutely held protective attitudes. And these themselves need to be re-examined and allow ourselves to spiritually, effortlessly allow to be felt within us the feelings and energies that are infused into these attitudes. What we all desperately need and want is to feel how loved and accepted we are. Another way to help this along is to grant this to everybody else. Acceptance, love, allowing and welcoming others' presence without judgment, without attitude, to be welcoming, because then in doing this you allow yourself to also be welcomed. What you will not grant for others, you cannot allow for yourself. So it's all about letting go of the resistance and the struggling and the fighting back, and allowing all that is present within and without to be present within you, to have it effortlessly. I've developed specific techniques, which I've described a little bit. Sometimes we need to process feelings of shock related to specific moments where we especially feel the impact of feeling unaccepted, unloved, rejected, and all alone and abandoned. And one example that's common to most of us is the shock and trauma of birth. Birth is very much sort of an echo of the experience of transition into the physical universe, and this feeling of all of a sudden being on the outside and no longer part of the usness and the love and the togetherness. It's scary and it's shocking. Why babies need to be comforted, why we all need to be comforted, to accept each other, to love each other, and allow others to accept and love us. And sometimes to do that, we need to process our resolutely held protective attitudes that say, I'm going to stand apart to protect myself from being hurt, abandoned, embarrassed, humiliated. Embarrassment and humiliated, those feelings that can make a person, can make you cringe so much. I know just saying that, you're experiencing some recollection of feeling terrible embarrassment about something, because it is a very severe form of feeling unaccepted, unloved, rejected, to feel embarrassed or humiliated. So let's all take that into consideration before we impose any ridicule on another person, because in doing so, it's going to recoil on us, and we really don't want to make anybody feel that. So it's all about letting go of fighting, struggling, and resisting, processing all that we have self-programmed to maintain certain ways of being and attitudes, to stand alone, apart, above, and so forth, unaccepting and distant from others. Because at the end of the day, these only ratchet up all the feelings of perceived separateness, distanced, unacceptance, feeling unworthy and unloved. And these are the things that propel all kinds of behaviors and attitudes. They don't do us any good. Anytime there is expression of anger, irritation, hostility, or rage, any form of anger is at its root an attempt to push back on fear, to bury anxiety, to hide it, or hold it down. You could ask any person who's expressing anger, you'd say, what are you afraid of? And as soon as they can express actually what they're afraid of, the facade of anger, that solution, that taken on attitude drops away. And now they're dealing with their underlying feelings. And these need to be accepted, processed, and spiritually digested. The good is always in acceptance, having. Presence, basically. Presence is a term that's used quite often in a spiritual or psychological sense. It's not necessarily properly understood. Presence is not maintaining some projection of self. Projections are a synthetic thing. They're not the natural whole self. They're a solution one is putting out when they feel they can't be whole. Presence is having all that is within and without, not maintaining a dominance of one's own expression of being over others, or maintaining one's expression of being. There's no effort, work involved in actual true presence. Presence is having what is, all that is, accepting, being part of it, allowing it all to be part of us. Coexistence, co-being, usness. Having all, accepting all, being part of all, welcoming all. It's the opposite of any form of distance. It's the opposite of domination. It's the opposite of retreat. It's simply an effortless recognition and having of all that is as being all one togetherness and coexistence. How we get there is through processing, spiritually digesting, being willing to be conscious of, reevaluating our attitudes, and always moving in the direction of wholeness. Wholeness is presence, and wholeness is all. And one cannot be whole to the degree that one is adopting ways of being of rejection. Rejection is the opposite of wholeness. And there's no type of rejection that adds to one's wholeness. Any rejection of anything is a reduction of your wholeness, of all wholeness. Now, my work is to help you to become more whole, more present, to resolve and digest anything and everything that is limiting or restricting your wholeness, your happiness, your love, your sense of self-worth, your presence, your connection with your love and your joy, and the things you're passionate about. To openly live your passion, be happy in your life, and have the feeling, sense, and living of accomplishment that means something to you. To live the way you want to live, as you should. And I've been describing to you how that's done. We need to penetrate layer by layer all the ways of being, all the protective attitudes we've taken on, all the fear, all the shock, all the terror, in whatever order it presents itself through your spiritual compass. Again, when I speak of your spiritual compass, that is your own natural instinct to be conscious of that within you which is in this moment most getting in your way. And rather than causing it to persist with greater force by trying to solve it, resist it, change it, it's simply a matter of owning it, allowing all the feelings of fear, shock, anxiety infused into your attitudes to unpack and disperse through your being, allowing all the full flavor and sensation of these energies, which then become at your disposal and part of your wholeness in digesting away to open up more of your presence, your joy, your love, your enthusiasm, and your passion. That's what we do. You can learn more through my website, dexsessions.com, DEXSESSIONS.com. You can connect with me through the contact page. You can see the testimonials of the hundreds of clients I'm working with and have worked with. And find your way to make use of what I have to offer, and I'll be very happy to work with you. I come to know you very well, very quickly, and you could say empathically and telepathically, my clients are very frequently very surprised. I will offer some insight into what's actually happening within them. Yeah. That's right, that's what it is. How did you know that? And then it becomes even more processable as your consciousness is raised and your openness to yourself, your creations, and what is within you becomes more effortless. And your life becomes more effortless. And you live happier, and you live truer to yourself with every change. I would love to work with you. Very available. You know how to find me. And thank you for listening to me and taking in what I have to say in this video.